The concept of shooter privilege is like the most stupidest thing in this game. It's beyond dumb. Mainly because, like, one, you are playing a shooter game, but like, two, a majority of the weapons, like, in the weapon, or I guess in the shooter class, well, not even a shooter class, the majority of weapons that are in this game are shooters, you know? And it's not like a thing where you want them to be bad. You want every weapon to be good, you know? And also, I guess the simple thing is just that shooters are really simple to play, you know? They're not like a bucket, they're not like roller, they're not like Tetra or anything like that. They're very simple to play. You hold the button, it shoots. You don't have to think so much about it. You know? There's not like extra mechanics to utilize to actually make them do something different. You know, in the end of the day, it's a shooter. It's just a gun. You press the trigger, it shoot. It's a very simple concept, and usually things that have simple concepts are usually just easier to play. And, you know, then people don't tend to experiment with trying to learn something that isn't a shooter, you know? Because shooters are just in general easy to play. Doesn't make them just like, oh, it's the only thing that's just that we see. But of course, you see it in the game. It's a shooter game. You're gonna see shooter game, like, just guns in the game. Like, it is what it is. You know? So, I think the whole, I mean, I don't know where it was created, why it's created, but it's dumb as fuck, honestly. there's no other way to say it. It is just so dumb. And the thing is, like, even in this game, like, even if we look at like how meta is, like how the meta is going, well, I guess in terms of what people are using, you see people use like things like Splatoon. You see things like a lot of buckets are being used. You see a lot of oh, I wouldn't say a lot, but like you see like 3 Splatlings. Oh, like the majority of Splatlings, of course, but like, you know, we are seeing these things. You can use roller if you can. You can use carbon. You know, we do see these things. These exist. But obviously, majority of people play shooters because the majority of weapons in this game are shooters. And it's easy to play a shooter. It's simple, you know, it's just, it is what it is. And it's not like the other weapons can't also be consistently good too. It's just that people are always going to be consistently good with shooters because it's just simple. And buckets and rollers, they aren't as simple as what a shooter would be. You can still be consistently good with those things too. It's just a simple concept. Like, it's there's so many, what's it called? You know, weapons are just shooters, you know. And it's not that there's too many. No. It's not that there's too, you're playing a shooter game. There's gonna be a lot of shooters anyway. There's too many shooters in my shooter game. What is this? Like, no, listen to yourself. It's not just a shooter game though. Oh, okay, sorry. No, it's a third-person shooter. That's it. It is what it is, Ash. I mean, you don't have to agree, but you are playing a shooter game. You are playing a shooter game, and it's not like all of them are even played at the same time. It's silly to think that, oh my god, there are just weapons and they're shooters and they're also simple to play, is because they're, you know, you just press the button, you go, you know? Like, the concept of shooter privilege is just the stupidest thing that you can say in any shooter game, really. Like, you're gonna have long-range shooters, you're gonna have short-range, you're gonna have bursts. Like, you know, there's just loads of concepts. Loads of different concepts of, you know, different weapons that you can have in a shooter game. Like, we could agree that, of course, like, things like Brella definitely need a buff. And I always say for it, like, it definitely needs a buff. Because it definitely deserves it, but like, it doesn't mean that other shooters in this game don't deserve buffs as well. Like, you have to balance the game somehow. And like, you know, significantly, there's just more shooters in this game compared to heavy splatling, or splatlings, rollers, buckets. And I think I think, you know, when you think about it, it's only like that because there's only so much you can do with other classes. Like, there's only so much you can do that hasn't already been done. But the thing is with like just regular guns, you can do so much with it, you know? And to be honest, if you really think about it, if you think of like Brellas and stuff like that, technically that's just a gun as well, because it's supposed to be reminiscent to a shotgun, you know? You have dualies, which is reminiscent to a Kimbo guns at the same time, you know? Fireshot didn't need a buff. It's okay to use the space in your build in IA. Having to do that doesn't make sense. I mean, we could argue that it didn't need the buff, but I can understand why it was buffed, and it's mainly to fight against, like, there to be an option between using Splattershot or Splash-O-Matic. Because you have Splash-O-Matic that's 100% accurate, and you have the Splattershot, which is like literally like the same weapon. And people would have picked the Splash-O-Matic more, mainly because the thing can fight. Well, it can fight, first of all. Has 100% accuracy, and it paints better. So, it's not necessarily just because they're just buffing it just to buff it. There's actually reason to it, you know? And that's just to balance out a different weapon that was already... Well, basically to have the choice. Okay, if I'm not gonna use the Splatter Shot, I'm gonna use the Splash-O-Matic. If I'm not gonna use the Splash-O-Matic, I'm gonna use the Splatter Shot, you know? So, that's literally it, you know. We can choose to ignore that, but... Yeah, also, I don't know what's going on in this lobby. There's like one guy here. Thoughts on buffing the Slushy Machine? The Slushy Machine needed to get nerfed, though. Like, if we do forget, or remember, or whichever, the Slushy Machine was the strongest Slayer weapon in the game for like 9 months. There was no reason for you to use anything else. Nice. I was about to say. There was literally, in competitive, high-level play, there was literally no reason for you to use any other slaying weapon because the Slusher Machine was so strong. You know? That guy always made us lose. The heck? Yeah, the machine is still good. You can still use it in comp. Like, they made it slower, but it's now fair. Like, you still got that massive hitbox. But... besides that, like, it definitely deserved to be nerfed, you know? It's nerfed to the point where you can actually still use it, and you can still use it in high level too. It's just slower, and, you know, it's deserved to be...
I feel so bad for that player, but at least it won't count as a loss for them. Yeah,
they don't lose anything. Splash technically has been nerfed in terms of, like, crab. But that's about it. I think... actually, no. The Splash has been nerfed with its suppressive fire. They did nerf it. Because there were points where, like, it could, basically, it was a lot better at fighting. Where, like, you just shoot and suppressing people with ink would, be much more of a thing than before. But Burst was also nerfed, too. It definitely was nerfed. Which, hurt the Splash a whole lot more. Because that, I mean, I feel like Burst Bomb really, really helped the Splash to fight. But yeah, Burst Bomb was toned down because it needed to be. Like, people would just be throwing it all the time, and they literally have so much ink left to fight with. So, fighting against, like, Splash and Spatana Stamper was just, like, so toxic. Yeah, Splash is basically nerfed at this point. I mean, it's nerfed enough where it's still usable, it's still strong, but, like, it's not, like, super dependent anymore, because, like, everything else is now stronger. Like, mainly regarding, like, special weapons, which is good. Like, the Crab Splash, like, you don't need to run 3 crabs anymore. Well, I feel like you can't, really. I mean, you can, but, like, it's just, like... it's, like, you don't have to, you know? It's not, like, super necessary. And I'm sure those, like, other buffs or other classes will come. But I think, like, it's just that there's so many shooter weapons in this game, it kind of seems like, oh my god, it's only shooter weapons that get love, but... it's just because there's a lot of weapons that are shooters in this game, you know? Which makes sense because we are playing a shooter game, so...